Yes.
Great. Well, thank you again. So maybe,
Thank
a few words about your personal background and your motivation for being a STEM researcher and studying, starting a PhD.
Sure. Thanks, Emily, for having me and having Fitsurance, first of all. So yeah, my name is Sauvik Gupta. I'm originally from Kolkata in West Bengal in India. And I have been a STEM researcher always. I'm an engineer by background. I did my bachelor's in instrumentation, master's in electrical engineering. So bachelor's was from India, master's was from US. I went to the US to do my master's. After that, actually, I came back to India to have my first valorization activity in a first startup in educational training and research. But I was still an engineer, so the E of the STEM still. But then slowly through the process, through the first startup, I started developing or having a more keen interest in science. And that's when I thought that, okay, let's try to bring the change from being an engineer to a scientist, because that's also a leap that you have to take at a certain point in your career or life in order to get to know about the more deeper philosophical questions that you can pursue as research. And that is when I applied for a few PhD programs, and then I got into an Erasmus Mundus joint doctorate position actually in the Netherlands and Belgium, so at the VU Amsterdam and KU Leuven. And so that was how I started to bring the journey from being an engineer to a scientist. And then at the end of my PhD trajectory, I started my second valorization activity through the second startup called Fitsurance, and which is going on now. And now the very recent status is we have the headquarters in Amsterdam, but I have also incorporated a branch in India of Fitsurance. So now we are at least in 2 different countries. So that has been a bit of my life journey in the STEM field. I really like being an engineer because that's where I can do some things, but I am also liking this transition to try to become a scientist more through publications or hardcore research, and maybe try to valorize that research activity through the startup. Mm-hmm. So that's in a nutshell my background, I would say.
Yeah, you said a lot of interesting information already. Maybe one point, what is actually to you, what does valorization mean?
Okay, yeah, I know it is a very broad term. It can be interpreted in various ways. To me, valorization is to create a tangible value for the society and for humans, for the mankind. Say, for example, how I look at it is the scientific research that we mainly do. At the end of the day, it still kind of stays within the academic community, in your research papers or in your thesis or in a university library. And I find it's a bit of a dichotomy, because more or less, more often than not, we are paid by taxpayers' money to do the research, but I can't expect common people to come and read my papers and theses. They won't even understand that. So I can't expect them. So, but what I can do for them, because I think I really need to give back something to them. And for me, the route to do that is probably through having a startup or like having a company through which I can translate my research and results for the common good of the community or the society. So that for me is actually valorization. Yeah.
Thank you. And then you mentioned the route to engineering, to science or scientists is very different, or the mindset. Can you explain why and what do you mean?
Yes, sure. Very good question. Actually, I'm still learning why that why question, and it's fun. You can say till my master's, or even until the first startup activity, I always enjoyed of this life of doing things. You know, as an engineer, we do things, we build things, we test them, we deploy them, and then it's out there in the market, so as to say, for people to go and test. What I really lacked a little bit is the research part. Like, why I am doing this, what are the hypotheses behind it, or is it even a feasible and important research question for the community to do? These were the questions that was a bit lacking in my in my engineering program. I'm not saying it's a demerit of the engineering program. That's how engineering is. So when I wanted to be a scientist, I wanted to focus more on these kinds of questions, like really go and try and think deeply about a question. Why is it important? Or is it a timely question? Or this can be explored later on? Things like that, stuff like that. So that transition, and this is happening at a relatively later stage in my life, at least above 25 years old, when I started these things. So it's a bit difficult trying to have this new outlook at what you are doing. And then it is in science, then it is not really about doing things. It's really about the core groundwork, having the questions, having a testable hypothesis, then trying them out, learning techniques like statistical techniques, and then trying to really conclude in a scientific way from your results so that you do not exaggerate or something. So that transition is difficult, I would say. I'm still learning it, but I like to challenge myself, and that's why I'm enjoying it. So that I can say about this journey. Yeah.
Thank you. And what were your main motivation for starting Fitsurance?
Okay, so the story of Fitsurance is it was basically a course project. So I'm affiliated to the Department of Human Movement Sciences in my university in Amsterdam, which is basically like biomechanics, kinesiology kind of field. We have to take a course at the end of our PhD trajectory, which is called Entrepreneurship in Human Movement Sciences. So we took that course. I took it along with three other master students. And the course project was like having to have like a fictitious company with a business plan and basically graded for credits. That was when Fitsurance's idea was born. And then, of course, we got some nice ideas, and then we could incubate it and incorporate it later on. But the main motivation or the main drive was all of us really wanted to do something for the community. And because we are dealing with like fitness, health, exercise science, these kinds of fields in human movement science, we saw that this is the ideal opportunity to really bring out these results from our class or from our research to outside. That is how actually Fitsurance was born, and this was our motivation.
Mm-hmm. And looking back, how would you describe the process? So from day one, from having really starting like, hey, we have an idea, let's do that. Until, well, it is you have a website, you're having customers, how would you describe the process? And then who helped you throughout your journey? So I don't know if you had the TTO involved or if you went through the demonstrator lab. If you can just share, what the process and the stakeholders who take you through, who helped you through.
Sure. So the first help was, of course, from our instructor with whom we were taking the course. Professor Massurel, he has been a big guide and like helping hand for us. He only actually directed us to demonstrator lab because he is a close friend of Professor David Iannuzzi, who is the director of the demonstrator lab. And once that happened, then we went to the lab. Then we had an intake procedure to incubate us over there. So these were the initial stakeholders, you can say, who helped us make the leap out of a class project to some sort of a tangible startup, as they say. And then we had other parties like ICSA, like Innovation Exchange Amsterdam, and then the university also came about and started helping us with ideas, with testing our initial hypotheses or questions that we had. So these were the initial network, and later on, of course, we expanded our network. We are collaborating with many partners, with some investors also, but in the initial days, it was really these networks which helped us.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of skills did you have to develop or mindset? What did you learn, or what did you have to learn?
Okay. I think you are mainly asking in the initial stages, right? What was the main things that I had to learn to make the transition, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe today, I believe once it's out of the market, although you're a co-founder, you know, you
Yeah.
need to constantly change and challenge yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, because I can actually compartmentalize this answer into two different things. So in the initial phase, it was really about making another switch. So, you know, as I already explained, I was making the switch from being an engineer to scientist. I had some sort of experience with the first startup in India. But then this was another switch. This was like from a scientist to a translator. So, for example, who can translate these results for the society. So, yeah, then like we had to undergo many pitch training sessions, like how to give an elevator pitch, how to pitch your idea in a couple of seconds to a layman who has no idea about your field. Say, for example, can you explain your idea to your grandparents? These kinds of questions, because we are never trained as a scientist to do these things for our papers or thesis. Nobody would even ask us to do that. So these were the very initial things that we all had to do. Again, it was quite challenging. And then while it was going on, then things started happening pretty fast, because then commercialization started happening. Then there were a lot of financial talks going on, money talks happening, investors coming in, partners asking for what do they have in this for them, things like that. So really like financial talks and talks regarding shares and all those things, which are alien to scientists. I can still say we did never really enjoy those things, because that's not our comfort zone. So again, this is still a learning process. I'm again enjoying it, but yeah, it's quite a bit different than what a regular PhD or a postdoc would have to go through, I would say. Yeah.
And you got all this pitch support through the IXA?
Yeah, not all, but mostly all in the beginning stage. Demonstrator lab and IXA, and also the university organized many of these classes, training sessions, because we were incubated over there. There were many online stuff also that we could access, and a few others from our personal networks. Yeah.
And now, what do you believe were the key success factors or the key elements of your valorization process? What was really critical to make it like a success? I mean, it's still in development, of course, but
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, sure. I can think of many things to be critical, but maybe I can try to give the key ones. For example, I think the first key one is the team, because without the team, this is not a job that I can do myself. I can probably write my papers on my own. My thesis is my own. Of course, I have my professors as co-authors in the paper, but I take the lead role in the research trajectory. But that is absolutely not possible in the valorization trajectory. So my team is really what makes or breaks it, I would say. You have a good team, you click. You have what have you, infightings or ego problems in your team, you crash out in a couple of months, and that's the end. So for me, that's really the key takeaway. We have a very nice team. We had a German student also in the beginning, but of course he went for research, so then he went away. But then we were the three of us, and now we have another Dutch investor. So the core team is a team of 4 now. And of course, then we started having many interns, many students from the VU, and not only from the VU, now we have even interns and students from Germany and India. So we have expanded a lot. So that's the key takeaway, which has really helped us succeed. And the next is the network. And by network, I mean it's not only the professors who help you in trying to validate your idea, but also the ecosystem. Because we were incubated in a university and we are still like an academic startup, this ecosystem of the university, the HR department, stuff like IXA, the knowledge transfer officers, as they call, I think, TTOs, technology transfer officers, and your peers and other students who also want to try out this startup journey, as they say. This is also very important, because if you are not inside this ecosystem, your development doesn't happen. And then you are either too narrow or you are too broad, and then you don't have a focus, which are both detrimental, at least in the initial stage. So team and network and the ecosystem are the key issues. I would say. And of course, you have to have domain knowledge. That kind of goes without saying, but I would still say it. It might be helpful for some students that without proper domain knowledge, it's not possible. I mean, I have seen some people, they think that, okay, this might be the easier way out. I can tell them, no, this is probably even difficult than writing your own thesis, because there you are the master of your projects. But here it is not. You really have to bring along the whole community and your team and the whole network together. So if you don't have domain knowledge, you would struggle, at least in academic entrepreneurship, you would struggle down the line, because the competition is huge. Then people will copy you and then take away your code. So these are the three key issues of success I can say, I guess.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting. On the team, do you have any tips on creating a good team? Did it happen organically, or is it really like a strategic exercise very early on?
Yes, the team is a double-edged sword, I also say. So for us, it happened organically. I mean, because it was this class project happening into a startup. So the team was already there. We have a very good team. So our domain knowledge part is very strong, because we are all human movement scientists. The other two people are master students. One is a research master's, one is a regular master's, and the PhD. So there's probably no doubt in the domain knowledge over there. So we didn't have any problem over there. We also gel together very well. We have nice ideas. We have cultural diversity. The two other people are ethnic Dutch. I am an Indian, so our brainstorming sessions are really nice and enriching, I would say. So that's really the strong point of our team. But of course, it's not all rosy with our team also, because we don't have a female. So I think gender diversity is also very nice to have, because various brains, there's also some research showing that men and women's brains work a little bit different. So that's always good to have. And the other thing that we also didn't have was we didn't really have any people from business background or from a computer science background. We are in data science actually now, but we were all like movement scientists and exercise scientists. So we lacked these data science computing skills or business skills in our team. So that is also ideal. So when we had to take a fourth shareholder, he was of course an investor in our company, but he really comes from a data science and business background. So the ideal gap in our team was fulfilled by that person, and that's why we took him in the team. So as an advice, I would say that it's good if you have an organic team. So that's a good kickstart. But if you have to fill some gaps, you can think along those lines, that what you lack in your team. And if you can fill up your team in that way, I think that's the ideal scenario.
Thank you. Is there any important barriers or factors that slowed down the valorization process? Or what was really main challenge that you didn't think of?
Yeah, again, of course, there were many issues. Some of them are really small, so I don't want to bring those things in the contention. But some of the key ones are like a bit of like bureaucracy, because we are in an academic setup. There are some red tapes somewhere. You cannot just, it's not like, so research is something I think at night I can go tomorrow in the morning and start doing it, of course, if I have the equipment. But this is something which is not like that, because if you have to test something out in the market or in the society, or even say within the university, we have to get a lot of approvals. And it depends a bit in which sector you are, because we're in the health sector, so we deal with people and their lifestyle and all those things. So these are very critical privacy issues that we have to take into consideration, especially with GDPR regulations in the European Union. It's a bit of a red tape bureaucracy, so we lost a bit of time on that in order to launch some of our key first questions that we want to try out. So that can be a problem. That was a bit of a problem for us. And the second key thing, which I could imagine for any startup, would be funding issues in the beginning. We were lucky, actually, if I should say fortunate enough, to get 2 funding in our first year from NWO and RVO, which helped us quite a lot, and also some pre-seed funding from Demonstrator Lab. But I can imagine maybe 80% of startups, at least student-led startups, won't have that. So that can be a very key issue. And of course, all our funding also didn't run for long. So then yeah, we had kind of a gap in between. So that was a critical time when things got a bit slower, and it was not the right time because then COVID also hit in 2020. So that was really a bit on the downside, but then we had to make a pivot and still we are thriving. So yeah, that's what I can say. Yeah.
Thanks. So you are actually, since you mentioned you're thriving, that's good.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Let's go into the impact or where you are today. So where you are today, is it what you imagined when you started the project? What is the impact of your activity right now?
Yeah, to be honest, I would say that when I started the project, I didn't think that we will come this long. I thought that, yeah, it's an experiment. Of course, I think I have failed more often than not in my research experiments. So I think I've tried 10, 6 were failures, 4 were successes, things like that. I thought pretty much the same thing would happen with this. And I'm not trying 10 companies, I'm trying 1 company. So it's bound to fail if you go by probability theory, for example. Yeah, I didn't have an expectation. I thought maybe 1 year, we would see how it's going. And then when the funding would dry up, we would just leave and go for full-time jobs or something like that. That's normally what happens. So I'm thrilled, and actually I'm ecstatic to see that we are still keeping on doing this. Is the 3rd year now. So that's promising. Of course, I would also be lying if I say that we also had some other, like, I mean, we also had the other spectrum in mind. I mean, there were times in our journey when we thought that we should have been doing much better in the previous 2 months, which we couldn't do. So those thoughts also creep up sometimes. Overall, I am happy. I'm satisfied that the Dutch business, which is kind of the headquarters for us, it's going strong. We actually landed a 3rd subsidy very recently. So that's another incentive for us. We are also getting selected in a few investor competitions and all. We are becoming finalists. So that is success, I think, for us. And also at the same time, I was able to incorporate a foreign branch in India. So I also see that as a success, because now we can also, this is the 2nd experiment finally that we can do in a different market and in a different community, for example. So overall, I'm happy. Yeah.
So now if we move to the lessons learned, is there any takeaways, things you could have done better, that if you had to start again, things you would change, classes you would have taken, skills you would have developed? What are your key takeaways as of today?
Sure. Yeah, I think the first takeaway would be, so if I have to redo this whole process again, kind of a simulation, I think I would have started with a more diversity. I would, maybe more females, more culturally diverse, and maybe more domain knowledge diversity. I would have definitely done that. That could have sped up a few of our initial things. Apart from that, I would say maybe I could have also tried to do certain things out of the university, because we were getting so advantages from the university ecosystem and startup. In a way, we were almost too dependent on them for certain things. That can happen because you are getting so many benefits from them. But now thinking down the line, I think that some of the things which we could have done without the university also, and then we could have a bit more independence, say, for example, which is also important for a startup, because your end goal is not to stay in the university, but to be a different independent entity working all by itself. So I would have also done that. I think the courses, the refreshers, the trainings, we had done considerably well. Maybe I could have taken a few more online courses or trainings, which were of course there, but we all have 24 hours in a day. I was still doing my research and science, and I'm still doing it. So I'm not really hesitant on that part. Yeah.
Thanks. Is there, you mentioned already a lot of things you would have done differently. Is there any other advice? So if you would give to a young early researcher trying to maybe play with an idea he has? Of course, I believe it's valorization is also very much context, varies from where do you study. Is there any other advice that you would give?
Sure. Yeah. I have a couple of advice, I would say. Again, many, I have honed down on two. First, I would say is patience, because it's very easy to lose it. This is not an easy journey. I mean, I know I have talked to some people, my friends, to be honest, they thought, okay, this might be easy. You are doing everything your own. You are your own boss. You don't have to report to anybody. It looks a bit rosy from outside. I can assure you that's not like that. It's actually very difficult, because constantly we have fears of, why are you even doing this? Yeah, nobody forced you to do that, right? You could have easily done the traditional way out, graduated, done a job or things like that. So patience is very key. There will be many nights where you would think you are completely on the wrong track. You should get up next morning and leave everything and go back to your traditional way. If you do that, it's very easy to do it. But if you do that, you lose everything. That's the thing. So that would be my first key message. Have patience. Try to stick on to what you are doing. Try to believe in your story. If you don't believe in your story, nobody else would will. So if you keep on doing that, that would be the first thing to do. And the second thing would be, you have to be hardworking. And so, I mean, what I mean by hardworking is, of course, work-life balance is important. And at times it would be that this cycle would get disrupted, because you are doing science, you are doing PhD, say, or postdoc, say, for example, you are an ECR, basically, early career researcher. Then at the same time, you're trying this valorization activity also. Again, you have only 24 hours, right? So you can feel a bit odd one out. Apart from your friends in the community, you are also working on weekends, you are also working on night. It might be frustrating. You cannot join parties, all those things. You cannot have a vacation. But again, if you really like doing this, I would still say keep on doing that, and then you would ultimately reap the benefits maybe 5 years down the line. So yeah, that would be my two key takeaways, I would say, or advice again.
To you, what keeps you pushing it forward? So those, for instance, those nights where you're like, why am I doing this? What answer do you give to yourself? I'm interested.
Yes, yeah. If you really ask my personal drive, it's I have this philosophical thing in my mind. It's really the thing. I strongly believe that as scientists, we are not actually doing justice to our taxpayers. We are more often than not funded by these taxpayers' money, which I am for sure. That was funded by the European Union, so there's no question on that. So, but writing only papers and thesis and having a doctorate and going on with your research is not how you are giving it back, actually, at least in fields like ours. This is not basic physics I'm doing, right? It will take 100 years to valorize my results. So that is my personal drive. I really want to do that. If I can do something now, then I make my research more worthwhile, more understandable for the public and also for my family. So that is my personal drive. We also have like a team vision, and the team vision is really, and this is very specific to Fitsurance and to our project, is we really think that we should make the society more healthy. There are numerous numbers. I won't cite them, publicly available from the CBS, the Central Bureau of Statistics in the Netherlands, that we are going down the wrong route. Overweight, we are becoming overweight, we are becoming obese, we are developing many non-communicable diseases. And the COVID-19 pandemic has actually shown what it does to the society as a whole. And we are actually a curative society rather than being a preventative society. So we want to prevent that. And that is our team vision or the mission, and which pushes us still in this journey.
Yeah, so the vision is really important to keep you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. If tomorrow I wake up and I don't believe in my vision, I would stop it.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you really would like to add or discuss?
No, I think we have covered the whole journey in a nutshell, I guess. I think we have done it all. I would commend these kinds of projects, I would say, because I So now I am at the end of my PhD trajectory. I would have loved if I would have got these kinds of programs like STEM outreach programs from my bachelor's or master's, which I was doing 10 years back. It was absolutely not there, neither in India nor in the US. So I love these kinds of projects. That's why I love to take part also in these kinds of projects. And I think this would really help the STEM community, because I really feel we should create more job opportunities and vacancies than seek for it. Otherwise, it is an unsustainable process because of our population. We cannot be only job seekers. We have to be job creators. And I understand that it is very field specific. I cannot go and say all these things to somebody who is doing history or philosophy, say, for example. It's very difficult. But STEM, I think this is the ideal field. So we should encourage more and more STEM researchers to probably try out these kinds of activities.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sauvik, for your honesty and saying it all. It was a really nice, great interview. So I will stop the recording.
Sure.